Hello and welcome to this Decoding Digital Media webinar brought to you by MII, Media Impact International, in partnership with Faith Tech. I'm your host, Nachi Lazarus, and today we are talking about YouTube. YouTube is probably one of the most important topics you need to be thinking about as you enter 2025 because YouTube is much more than a social media channel. It's much more than a search engine because we all know YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world after Google, and it's the second biggest social media platform. But right now, YouTube is actually going to the next level and becoming almost a television platform. So it is the platform for anyone in media in any way. So I know all of us are in media ministry, and it's important for us to understand this most powerful media platform that's in front of us right now. Billions of people log on to this platform every single day. More than a quarter of the world's population, more than 2 billion people log in with their username and password into this platform. And they consume content, they educate themselves, they entertain themselves, they watch the news. Everything happens on YouTube. So it is an important topic. It's a powerful platform. So it's key for you to know how to use this strategically. So we have two very experienced guests with us today. We have DK Hammonds and Jay Cranda. Let me quickly introduce them to you. DK Hammonds is the CEO of Amplify Social Media and DK Consults. He empowers churches, organizations, and entrepreneurs to amplify their influence through cutting edge strategies in social media, podcasting, artificial intelligence, AI, and project management. His expertise lies in helping leaders harness the power of technology to foster authentic connections, grow their reach, and share their message with purpose and creativity. We are super excited to have DK with us for the very first time on this show. Our next guest is Jay Cranda, who you're all familiar with. He has been on the show before. Jay Cranda is the online community pastor at Saddleback Church, which was founded by Pastor Rick Warren. And he oversees a weekly YouTube worship service with online groups and home gatherings around the globe. He's the author of a new book, which you will hear more about from us. It's called Online Church is Not the Answer. It's an interesting title. And he is a graduate of Biola University and Talbot School of Theology, and he writes regularly at jcranda.com. We are super excited to have Jay back with us on the show. What a great lineup of guests. I can't wait to hear from these guys. But before we do, I have two quick things. First is a question for you, and second is a quick announcement. The question is, do you have a YouTube channel? If you're already on YouTube, which I'm assuming most of you are, then we would love to know what is your YouTube channel. So if you have more than one, feel free to add all of them, but put them in the chat. So on the chat, go ahead and share the URL of your YouTube channel so that we can take a look just to know who is joining us and what your YouTube channel looks like and so on. So go ahead and share your YouTube channel link on the chat. If you have multiple links, go ahead and share that as well. And the second thing is about our Q&A. I'm sure you will have lots of questions about YouTube and the tools we are going to share about AI and various other things related to YouTube. So any questions you have, go to the Q&A button that you see below, and you can ask your questions anytime. One of the experts will be live answering your questions on the Q&A. So try to ask all your questions in the Q&A, not on the chat. Okay, try to ask it in the Q&A tab so that we can keep track of questions without losing them, because chats can go fast and we may lose some of the questions. So make sure all your questions are in the Q&A tab. So just go to the Q&A tab and ask your questions. We will make sure we answer every single thing. Even towards the end, after we finish our discussion, if we have to wait for a few minutes to answer your questions, we will do that. But we'll make sure that every single question is answered. Now let's jump into my conversation with DK Hammonds and Jay Cranda about YouTube success strategies for 2025. DK and Jay, welcome to Decoding Digital Media webinar. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it.
All right. So today we are talking about YouTube, and I'm super excited because YouTube is one of those topics that is all. I don't know. We've been talking about YouTube for like what, more than a decade, and it's still exciting as we get into 2025. It's amazing how this platform is. But before I do that, I want our audience to get to know both of you a little bit more than what I introduced before we started recording. So why don't you give us a quick couple of points related to your personal life and your professional life, something that you want to share with the audience so that they get to know you a little bit better. So, Jay, why don't we start with you? What's going on?
Yeah, so I think the biggest personal thing is my wife and I are kind of getting ready. Our oldest is coming up on the last part of his time in middle school, and we're getting ready for high school next year, which is kind of I still don't believe that's possible. And so I think it's something that I think about a lot, or at least we pray a lot about, like how we're ushering in this next phase of having kids and just having somebody. He just turned 14 and soon he'll be a freshman in 6 months or whatever, which is crazy to think about. On a more professional level, I launched my book last year around August, which I'm super proud of and excited that I got it out. And D DK's got a copy of it right there. I love it. He was ready to, super kind. Yeah, so online church is not the answer beyond just streaming to hybrid discipleship. And really, a lot of churches and ministries just think about getting content online, but they don't think about deeper integration. And that's really what I was talking to somebody about goals for 2025 on this last week when we had time off and we were reflecting. And it's hard to come up with a new goal because that had been my goal for like 3 to 4 years. And so to get that book out, so I still don't believe it's out. And so, but I'm very proud of that. And now it's just promoting the book. So yeah.
Okay. I'm
Amazing.
going to show my Kindle version.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
Oh,
Now she's got it too.
there
I
we
know.
go.
Uh,
Yeah.
I have good friends. I have good friends.
Yeah.
Uh, awesome. Yeah, we'll put a link to the book in the chat so you guys can get it. I mean, anyone in this space needs to read that book. That's awesome. It's such a great book. DK, so finally, it is so good to meet you and have you on the show. Thank you for being here on the show, DK.
Man, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, give us some insights into what's going on with you.
Oh, what is not going on? Unlike Jay, all of my children are adults. So I'm praying for you, brother. That is a transitional period. But, my daughter recently got married. She's been married for 2 years. Um, Wife is getting her doctorate currently. Daughter's in nursing school, and two of my kids are in school as well. Outside of just children and family, of course, I have been announced as the CEO of Amplify Social Media, where Niels was once the CEO. Now we're going to elevate him to the bishop of social media, and I'm just simply an overseer of Amplify Social Media at this time. Another thing is recently, of course, I write ebooks. I hadn't gotten to my brother Jay's level just yet. I will eventually, but I recently did a ebook on AI called "Embracing AI for Churches: Practical Tools for Growth in Ministry." That is right now it is free. If you join our newsletter, you can get that for free right now on our website. So that's something that I'm just doing for the people, just to be able to sow into the kingdom of God.
That's awesome. Awesome. Yeah, we'll have the link to those things in the chat. Awesome. Thank you for being here. So let's dive right in to YouTube and DK. So I'm going to start with you. So as people get into 2025, what should they know about YouTube? Just take us through what you have in mind.
Oh man, there's so many great things to learn or know about YouTube. But for the most part, I want to cover how important it is to have good thumbnails in YouTube. And that's super duper important because what people are learning with AI is that AI can produce some things like YouTube, but it's nothing like having a classic thumbnail that's going to grab the attention of people when they are scrolling past YouTube. You want to have something engaging, thought provoking, something that's eye level. It's going to gain the people's attention as they scroll. With that, you want to have something called a description or title to accompany that thumbnail. Those two important things in YouTube, in my opinion, are going to be groundbreaking. I'm already seeing great things happen. Of course, you can't do those things with the reels, but you can definitely do them in YouTube where you can get a lot of engagement just on those two things alone.
Wow. Wow. So when you say thumbnail, is it just want to dig in a bit? So what should people be thinking about in terms of a thumbnail? Should it be shot from the video, or should they
Well,
look for like trends? Like what are some of the practical things that they can think about?
you know, in my experience, people are kind of going away from the trendy thumbnails. I'm starting to see more so they're investing like almost the shock value in their thumbnails, which is really funny. So when I see other people do it, it's like almost this person is sitting there like, aha, one of those types of moments that kind of grab you or stop you. Now, nothing wrong with a pastoral shot where a pastor is pointing or preaching or leading or saying something that's super engaging and you caught that shot and you're using that as your thumbnail. Absolutely. But what I've learned is when thumbnails have eyeballs from the other person in it, people stop and engage because they think that you are looking at them. So consider that in your thumbnail when you are putting it together. It's cool to have that nice action shot, but they're looking for somebody that's almost talking to them. So
Mm.
YouTube is making the shift of being a relational application, even in the artistry of thumbnails and descriptions. I just did a YouTube series, and it was called The 30 Days of a CEO. And within that series, I talked about the various things that I would encounter, telling the founder story of what I would encounter as a CEO, whether it be SEO, whether it be other conversations, whether it be working out, things of that nature. And I go through it, and you can see me engaging this for 30 days straight, which leads me to the third point I think is super important when it comes to YouTube. That is consistency.
Mm.
If you are trying to get a certain level of engagement out of YouTube, you need to consider a topic potentially that you can talk about for 30 days or 15 days or 10 days where they're showing a level of consistency. Now, is that going to take a lot out of you? If you plan, it does not. I do recording in bulk. So I'll sit at my teleprompter for 2 hours and record straight through everything I need, write my scripts down, record straight through, and I have everything that I need to send over to somebody else to do all my edits and cuts, or if I need to do it myself. So yes, I did that series, saw tremendous growth. Went from literally it's meager numbers, but I went from literally like 20 followers because I started new on a YouTube channel to like 94 and had X amount of engagement. People from all over the world were listening and watching based upon that. Equally, with that same series in other platforms, I did go viral at least twice.
Mm.
So the one place that I experienced virality was LinkedIn, which I
Wow.
was super surprised about, right? So when I say virality, we're talking about over 600,000 impressions, all types of views, that type of virality on one video. But the whole thing is I was posting consistently every single day. Now I'm sure my brother Jay's gonna probably talk about other SEO optimizations and things of that nature that may go into it potentially. But those are the things that I did when it comes to YouTube to experience this kind of catapulting in the space.
Got it. Got it. Thank you so much. Those are great points. Jay, any thoughts on both the thumbnail and the posting patterns from your side?
Yeah, I was curious just from a technical perspective because thumbnails are this really interesting thing that they have been around a lot, and even for some users, super users, they've started to allow you to try out different thumbnails. So
Yes.
this feature, I don't believe DK is released to everybody yet, right? I don't think we have A and B testing
Which
yet.
A&B testing has been released to most of us on YouTube. Yes.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen that feature yet on my dashboard, but it looks like I haven't been looking in the right place. But I
Yeah.
do know
Mhm.
I saw Mr. Beast doing it. He said he was doing it, and then there's a couple other YouTubers said that they were experimenting with it. But that's cool. So like
Mhm.
that's something to try out
Yeah.
that one thing I will say, I generally like DK. I pay attention to thumbnails that kind of get my attention. And then I try to reverse engineer why did I stop and see that. And it's one of those things, like even with myself, like I create a video, it might be 10, 30 minutes long, and I naturally just want to upload it. But sometimes it takes that thoughtful, like if you hear some of the top YouTubers, and I know people, us listening here, we're not top YouTubers and we're probably not going to be top YouTubers, but it is interesting to learn from their habits. And
Yeah.
like there are top YouTubers like Mr. Beast that think more about their thumbnail than they do everything else. And that says a lot. And so what it means is that your title, how much text you put on. I remember I was talking to a friend who had a big he went from like a couple thousand subscribers to over 100,000 subscribers. And he was talking about he had this learning of making the image more light, like
Mhm.
lightening up the image, because depending on how people are scrolling, if it's too dark, they can't see it. And light is more inviting. And I remember like this was a couple years ago, but like I'm constantly paying attention to that. Like, and I remember I would sometimes create images like in Canva, and then I would like lighten the image a bit just to see what would
Mm,
happen.
mm.
Um, and I just it's one of these things that I think it takes a lot of testing and pay attention that what catches your eye. Now, I will say one tip, just generally, and DK Nachi, you guys would agree with this. Don't one of the things that people do is that they overpromise in their thumbnail, or they try to be too exciting in their title
Yeah.
or their thumbnail, and the
Yeah.
video doesn't deliver. And you might get away with that one time or
Yeah.
two
Mhm.
times, but you're not going to get away with it long term. And so it's
Yeah.
kind of like these spammy blog posts that happen that we used
Yeah.
to get these spammy blog posts or these emails. I get them in like my Google News stuff. And like it would be like, oh, did you see who died at, and it would be something crazy. Click on it, it's like nothing. It's just fake. Or
Yeah.
like, look at this trade that happened, and it's not even
Yeah.
like. And I say that like, don't overpromise. There's a tendency to like want to overpromise. You got to be super. You got to because you want to build loyalty over time. But I think the biggest thing is just pay attention to what catches your eye, and then try to
Right.
reverse engineer that and put the work in on it.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. And just on the thumbnail pictures as well, I know DK kind of touched on it. Sometimes people have to do this, and I personally do a few of these because I'm that person. I get excited a lot, and even you can see that that's how I am. But the people I work with, most of the ministries that we worked with over the last 15, 20 years, are not those people. Like some of the pastors can't do that. Like they're like, no, that's not me. I'm not going to do that. So, what some of the channels that we worked with, which has gone from like zero to literally like silver play and so on. What I've done is just so people kind of rest a bit on this point is just use shots from the video of pastors speaking, because mostly in sermons and in churches and even in media ministry content, when somebody's speaking, there is always a point of excitement that comes as part of the delivery. So you can just capture that, and that looks much more natural than just making them pose for the thumbnail. So I would say I highly recommend that. And another channel that really went viral for us is a channel, it's a music channel. And in that, one of the thumbnails that we used was the picture of Christ, but it was a painted picture by an artist, the black and white painted picture, and that was just different. I mean, so I'm saying, I mean, something like that. So to Jay's point, just keep it attention grabbing, but you don't have to always like follow everybody's trend of keeping it like wide
Well,
eyed and yeah,
I was gonna add, there's like there's a YouTuber I follow. who it's totally like random, but but they document going to one of the Disneyland parks near me. And
Mm,
sometimes I follow this person just because I'm interested in maybe what's going on there.
yeah.
And he has a loyal following. He's like has over, I think, 100,000 subscribers. He has a couple hundred Patreon supporters who like, and it's one of these influencer type of jobs that's really
Yeah.
interesting. But he was saying on this deal, like he was using a tool because he's probably in his mid 50s and he hires people to do their to do his thumbnails now.
Wow.
But he was talking about how he was doing A and B testing where he did one video very normal and then he used a tool, I think it was crazyfaceai.com, crazyfaceai.com. It's this random tool, but what it will do is it will literally do different faces like shock face and like and so you could so it will use your image and create a thumbnail using AI. It will generate, and it
Yeah.
actually, so people were telling like I could tell it was AI, and it was really funny because it was like, oh, I hadn't even thought of like if I hadn't done all the poses, and let's say I'm wearing a different shirt and my hair's different, like that's how it's going. I will say, just at a high level, if you ever look at like a Mr. Beast photo, his face is always altered.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
clearly exaggerated.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying that like you got to do this with your pastor or your church, but again, pay attention to the trends. And this, I
Right.
just thought it was crazy. I was like, there's these tools. Like if you just search on Google thumbnail YouTube AI tool, you're gonna find a bunch of tools, and you might
Right.
need to try three or four. But this is where we need to try stuff out.
Right.
That's
Right.
I would like to throw another tool out there that I use that's helpful is I think it's vid.io, vid.ai, one of those two. Super helpful when it comes to descriptions as well as telling you which thumbnails work. And they even have a scaling system that when you load your thumbnails in the system, it'll scale it and tell you if this is going to have a certain level of impact or if it's not. So I think it's vid. I want to be sure. Yeah,
Is it
vid.iq. Sorry, vid.iq.
vidIQ? Yeah,
Vid,
vidIQ.
that it's that one. I use that one. My team used that one, and that works as
Right.
well.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. I use a TubeBuddy, which helps a lot with many things, YouTube. So that's another tool. So I know our audience are also very interested in different tools that they can use. So we kind of collect all this and we'll put it on the chat for you guys. Don't worry about it. Great. That I love that. I love the whole thumbnail discussion because I think it's absolutely crucial with the increasing attention span issue on YouTube. Having a great thumbnail is a great starting point. So thanks, TK, for bringing that up. I know that, like we discussed, all the top YouTubers they actually start with thumbnail. That's what Mr. Beast said. He said our whole ideation process starts with a thumbnail. So he's like, before even we create the script, we actually create the thumbnail. So that's
Mm.
how important it is. So I'm glad we kind of had a chat about that. Excellent. So keep your questions coming. If you have any questions about thumbnails, just ask in the chat. One of the experts are live here, and they will they will be answering your questions when you ask them. So just want to encourage all of you to ask your questions. And all right, let's move on. So I want to hear from Jay because he has a very interesting position as one of the first actually online church pastors in the world. So he's been in that position for a very long time. He's seen YouTube grow. He's used YouTube effectively. He's one of the greatest minds that you need to listen to. There you go. So Jay, what do we need to know about YouTube?
Yeah, I mean, YouTube, it's really this interesting platform that has grown from, just a couple minute videos to now you can watch hours. I just recently finished a book on a couple different presidents, and I wanted to look at I was trying to continue to learn, and I watched one of the presidents that I was reading about was LBJ, and so I happened to put into YouTube and it popped up his last interview he ever gave.
Wow.
And I sat there for 45 minutes watching this interview, and he died a couple of days. And I just think it's crazy that this thing that is free and I can just watch and I'm not paying anything technically. And it's just an amazing tool. And I like to remind people continually that it is the, second most searched used platform. And I think your ministry, your church has the ability to be discovered on that platform. Now, it doesn't mean it will easily be discovered. You have to put in the work. The same way as you might take care of the property in front of your church, you
Mm.
might cut the grass and make sure stuff's painted and look well. You got to do that work with your website, your social, with your YouTube channel. And so I think and this is the hardest part is we're doing all this stuff and sometimes we just don't want to add another platform. Well, I don't want to be thinking about YouTube. But think about this. What if your ministry had been thinking about YouTube 5 years ago and
Mm.
if you would have put in the investment, think about how better prepared you would be for this moment. Now, you might go, well, I already missed it. No, trust me, YouTube has tons of ability to triple over the next 5 years. So do not
Mm.
delay. Start thinking about thumbnails, start thinking about being consistent and all this stuff. And so, yeah, so like for us, I think one of the biggest tips I have, and we do a lot on YouTube, this isn't something that I'm part of a larger team, but we have over 500,000 subscribers on our church's YouTube channel. We create a custom worship service every week on YouTube. We think a lot about this, and I'm in it every week. Just before we started this, I was setting up a YouTube ad to drive engagement there. So like this is something I live in. One of the things that I've learned with YouTube is being consistent, kind of echoing what DK said, but I would go one step further and I would say coming out of this, if you want to commit, and this is true with any social platform, but I think it's very true with YouTube, I would make a plan to go the next 60 days, we want to take YouTube more seriously.
Mm.
And what I would say is that I want to post one video that's maybe longer than 5 minutes, and then maybe two shorts, which are 60 seconds or less, at least primarily on mobile. They're experimenting with those being longer, but and then just say every week I'm posting 3 videos, 2 shorts, 1 long form, and I'm doing it for 60 days. So I'm doing it for 8 weeks. And what I have found is it's easy. As somebody who creates content on these channels, I could tell you like I can upload something to YouTube and then I get, 100 views. And then I upload another day, 100 views, and then all of a sudden I get one that's over 1,000 and I'm like, what is going on? And
Mm.
so because we're kind of at the mercy of the algorithm now, like how stuff gets discovered, just commit to 60 days and then reevaluate, but do not give up 2 weeks in. But I promise you, you will learn a ton about YouTube and what it means for your ministry or church. So just commit to 60 days, be consistent in that posting strategy and pay attention to what's working, what's not. And so I think consistency is one of the biggest things, and just make a plan, 60 days, 3 videos a week, and then at the end, reevaluate. And then on top of that, the second part of that is pay attention to the data. And this is where the number one thing I do is YouTube analytics. If you have a YouTube channel, you can go in, you can look at a bunch of data on demographics of your people, where people are joining from. One of the things that I like to look at is the retention data. And because it will show you, oh, great, like I'll take a very practical example. Our church, we do this thing after New Year, after Christmas, where we don't have services in person the week after Christmas. We kind of say it's a time off for our volunteers that serve every week. So we do a online only weekend after Christmas. So we do this big push. We create this amazing product. So we created the worship service for our church. I actually ran an ad towards it, did a bunch of stuff. We had, almost 130,000 people view this service over the 7 days. Really cool. Now I ran some ads towards that, so I beefed it up to make it bigger. When I go into retention, I can see like how many of those people actually watch. So great, I had 130,000 people that says it view. That's the public number. Okay, on the back end, what's the retention? And I can see that we're around the 8% retention on this video. So again, you can see it's like, whoa, well, we only had that many people watch 8% of the video, or the average user is only watching 5 minutes. Again, this is where you can make judgments. Okay, well, maybe I need to have less of this in the beginning, and maybe and then the video will actually show where people fall off or like skip forward. Like I know sometimes in our weekly worship services, people skip music and go right to the music. I mean, the message doesn't mean we don't do music. It just means what should we do? And so looking at that retention data in your YouTube analytics is huge. Now, two other tools that I would recommend are Social Blade, and then also the other one was viewstats.com, which is Mr. Beast's tool. And these tools can actually, if you go there, Social Blade and View Stats, you can actually, if you can start tracking your stuff there, and you can compare yourself to other comparable channels. And so that's actually super helpful. So you can actually see like, oh, what are other channels like me doing? Oh, they're posting 3 shorts a week. And this is where using data with consistency can kind of give you an outline of what working, what's not. But using retention, I think I have found is one of the best ways to find out what's actually working long term.
Before we move on, a quick reminder about our Q&A tab. If you have any questions, leave them in the Q&A section. Just click on the Q&A button and leave your questions. We'll make sure that every question is answered. We'll have an expert standing by, and your questions will be answered live as we proceed through this webinar. Thank you so much. Now let's get back to our discussion. So I have a couple of thoughts and points to add, but DK, any thoughts on that? What Jay shared?
Yes, please go pick up Jay's book at Online Church. It's not the answer. Go pick this up at Amazon. A lot of what he just said can probably be referenced here, and it's an excellent resource and tool. I would highly recommend you go pick up that book. But if I was thinking of what he said in terms of the tools are spot on, in terms of retention being a conversation, I had a conversation with a client today, and they had a conversation about politics in one of their podcasts, and their podcast numbers almost quadrupled. But the next month, the podcast numbers went down because they were talking about Christ and Christmas. And so to a normal eye, they would say, wait a minute, something's wrong with our numbers. No, you said something that caught the attention of the algorithm. This is the response. The next one shows how we double the numbers the following month. So we didn't lose on any one of those things. That's why the numbers are so important. Now, I will say this, because somebody's going to be listening to myself and Brother Jay, but naturally, they're going to be listening to us and saying, we got to get the numbers up. And I'm going to say, numbers are important. Men lie, women lie. Numbers usually don't lie, according to Jay-Z. However, the opportunity here is success is produced through faithfulness and consistency. And if we desire to have those end results, we got to be consistent, and that's how we can potentially produce that. Everybody's not going to get 10,000 views. No, but be consistent with where you are and where you're going, and God will provide the increase thereafter.
I love that. I'll give you a quick example of that happened to me recently, a kind of a perk in 2024 end. So as all of you audience as well know that I've been putting out a news video for 4.5 years. So more than 250 episodes week on week, and for the first, I think 150 weeks, we had like nothing. So you go to my YouTube channel, you can see it even now. It probably had like 10 views, 20 views per video for more than 100 weeks. I mean, it was not the most encouraging numbers. But something started happening in between, when you do it, because the point is when you create content, you create for the audience. And even though on YouTube itself, we only had like, a 2-digit number of views, but overall, I was getting a good response from certain people saying that, it was helping them and it was useful and so on. And we said, well, if it's helping a few people, even if it is 50 people, it's 50 people. It's a lot of people, like 50 people in a room would be a big crowd. So we said, let's just keep going. And we kept going. And now we're crossing 250. And of course, the channel has grown and views have grown and so on. But, just the end of 2024, I get a message from Google. First, I thought it was a spam, right? And Google says, hey, we noticed your shorts. Can we use it for our promotion? I said, what? I said, okay. So then I went and double checked that it was from YouTube, from Google, and it turned out it was. So then they sent me a consent letter and they asked me to sign off a thing that they can use my content and so on. And voila, I mean, before the year ends, they actually featured me on their main YouTube channel along with 4 other creators who are like, millions of people following them, right? And I just have hardly thousands of people. And I focused only on church leaders and ministry leaders. And I'm like, that is my small niche in the entire internet world. And then I get picked along with these four big creators, and all five of our shots was featured on the main YouTube channel. So what I just want to share that with you because like Jay said, you just have to be consistent. Now, what does that mean? Or how does it translate to kingdom impact? I don't know. But what I'm saying is, I felt like that was just a pat on the back saying, keep going. So I just want to encourage all of you to keep consistently posting, as Jay said, as DK confirmed. It's so important to move on and keep doing what you're doing, because YouTube is much more than a social media. So if you've been watching YouTube CEO, because of our news thing, we track what they do. And YouTube CEO Neil Mohan has been talking about, if you watch the last 6 months or so, he's been hinting how they are actually going head on with television. Social media is not their competition anymore. They are actually taking television head on. So literally, if you go back to YouTube's blog, he had a blog post that said why Emmy awards, which is being given to television programs, need to be given to YouTube producers. And he literally, like, he had points that said, look, YouTube producers actually do much more than what TV producers do. And he's like, we have studios, we have this, we have that, and we can track our audience responses faster than a TV program. So he really substantiated why YouTube shows are better than TV shows. So it's amazing what YouTube is becoming. So highly recommend that. And then one more thing I want to add on this, on Jay's point, is shorts. So shorts are going absolutely through the roof. And for most of us, shorts duration has been increased to 3 minutes. At least I got it after a month after the announcement. So it's now 3 minutes, guys. Like, as church people, more minutes, better for us. So if you have a sermon, summary or something that takes just over a minute, go for it now, right? I'm sure it's not fully rolled out to everyone, but it will be, because that's what YouTube wants. So have you guys seen any ministries do more than a minute, Jay, DK?
I have not seen ministries do more than a minute yet.
Okay.
I do know that they have rolled it out to some of the creators, but in terms of those of us who manage accounts, some of our accounts don't have the 3 minute rollout.
Okay.
But to your point, in terms of the impact of reels, consider this. If you put reels together and you use Jay Cranda's book option that he just mentioned, where it's 2 posts, 1 reel, or whatever the case may be, you do that mix.
Yeah.
And let's just say 2 of those are reels and 1 of those are posts. You could easily add a 3-minute clip, and now you
Right.
have 3 reels and 1 post or 2, and that means every day we are attacking at the algorithm on a consistent basis. And so do not, I repeat, do not take the reels for granted. It is what, to me, is supporting the larger form content that you are putting out.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jay?
Yeah, no, I haven't, unfortunately, still, it's been pretty limited on the beyond 3 minutes, and I've been waiting beyond a minute. I've been waiting for it too. I got the notification. I actually tried to upload something like a month ago, and I realized that it cut off after a minute because it hadn't been released to me, and I had to delete my video. So I make mistakes like that all the time. But I think one of the hardest things that people just have to be reminded and is, TikTok really changed the game for a lot of these platforms. Mainly because it used to be the best content would be elevated, and now it's not really about the best content as so much as what does the platform think is the best content. And I think that distinction is very important, because what platforms like TikTok are doing is that they're running thousands of experiments every second. And essentially, if something has high engagement, which means more ad revenue because more watch time, it will elevate it. And so this is why YouTube has started to copy this over the last year. And so I say that because if you feel like, I don't know why this video works and that video does, there's not a lot of insight into that outside of just taking more swings. This is why, now I'm not saying that your ministry or church should do this, but if you just Google top 100 YouTube channels, or top 100 Instagram channels, top 100 TikTok, what you will actually see is a lot of those outside of anomalies, a lot of them post so many videos a day
Yes.
because
Yes.
they're constantly taking swings. They're
Right.
constantly put. Now, I don't think that means you have to do that, but I'm saying like there's a very popular Instagram account here in the US called Hoop Highlights, which is very popular, and they constantly post every hour they have, every couple hours they have, and it's because they're trying to get more in the algorithm because it's almost like a wave, and you catch waves and you miss waves, and the YouTube algorithm is like this, and shorts is like this, and this is why I would always encourage you. This is why I would say post 2 times a week over 60 days. And I would encourage you to post and look at the views. Why did that work? I joked on this a couple months ago because I was experimenting with shorts and I posted every day for about 10 days. And my first video had like 100 views. My second video had 200 views. My third video had 400 views. My fifth video had 700. I think my sixth went a little over 2,000. And then it went down. It went to like 500 to 400. And I was like, oh, I think the algorithm just teased me.
Yep.
And it's this thing that I would just, but it's less about that. It's just more about did it work or not? Because
Yeah.
it's literally you post and it shows it to a bunch of people. And if nobody clicks on it, they close it off.
Right.
Yep.
And so you might have a great piece of content
Right.
that just didn't, like, for whatever reason, you have to, why didn't people? Well, it's because the thumbnail, it's because the title, it's because the first 3 seconds. Like, again, this is why you're going to be constantly trying. And this is why I would say just over 60 days, post 2 shorts a day. Maybe try out post 14 videos in a row. Trust me, if you did that, you will get a better education in the YouTube algorithm than you can get out of university. You'll learn
Yep.
a
Yeah.
ton in that process.
Yeah.
Trust me, you'll be like, oh my goodness, that's really lame. I can't believe that didn't work. Because there'll be stuff that you think will work, but it just takes way too long to saturate in the algorithm.
Jay,
Yeah.
can I add to that, man? I think
Sure.
you raise up this point about being curious. And I think sometimes we're trying to chase the algos. I call them algorithms, the algos. We're trying to chase those so much that we're not being imaginative and curious. And the things that we can create on our own that will be good for us. Remember, yeah, you can create a YouTube, but do you love what you're putting out?
Mm.
You love it. And if you love it, then be consistent at what you love and be curious to learn about these other creators who have done the same thing and add those certain pockets. Mr. Beast, Myron Golden, Saddleback Church, or any other church, Elevation Church, all of these places can give you this muse to help you be more creative as it relates to that. So be curious as well.
I love that. I love that. See, the thing also with us Christian media people, the biggest blessing that we have is we create content every week, whether whether rain or shine, right? So always my colleagues in other industries who are in social media space, they're always jealous of me. They're like, we're wanting to create content, but you guys are creating content, naturally. I said, yeah, that's what it is. As churches and ministries, we have that edge. So which means, to Jay's point, to DK's point, we can actually experiment more than anybody else. If something doesn't work this week, well, I trade, do it next week, right? But in that, I want to add from a specific YouTube point of view, especially as churches, I've got this question for 10 years, and now I still get this question. People just take the sermon video and throw it on YouTube. Please, in 2025, do not do that. At least if you cannot do anything, just add a montage in front of that. For example, if you use editing tools today that are AI powered, for example, one of the tools that we use is Descript. It's an video editing tool. It's an AI tool. What it does is when you edit the video, it has and in the AI, it has a button that just says create a montage, like a quick I forget the name of it, like high reel or something like that. It creates a 1 minute summary of the entire video by automatically. I mean, you don't have to do anything. You don't even have to edit it. You just click the button and it takes the entire 1 hour video and it creates a 1 minute shots of the video to make it look interesting, right? Just pick that up and put it in front of the video. That's the simplest hack that you can do, and it's available for free, right? And AI does the work for you. Now, that's just one tool. Many of the AI tools would do it for you. So what I'm saying is not for the sake of doing it, but this is absolutely crucial for YouTube success because YouTube is a unique platform. So you don't take a 1 hour sermon or 30-minute sermon and just put it off like that. It needs an opening. It needs to warm up the client audience. It needs to kind of prime the audience for what's coming. And to do that, you can use AI. So that's what I'm saying. So maybe you can do like a 2-minute, 3-minute summary or clips ahead, and then maybe even have somebody talk. You can have AI talk about the video and say, in today's message, this is what our pastor is going to do. For example, if you go to Hey Gen, or if you go to Synthesia, or any of these AI tools, we'll put those links in the chat. They will create an AI avatar which you can brand as AI. You don't have to be inauthentic. You can just say it is an AI avatar of our channel that introduces every single sermon video. How about that? Right? These are things that I'm experimenting with different ministries. So it works because look, in YouTube, what do people want? People want first to hear about the promise of the video. Then they want to know what is going to come. And then they're willing to give you an hour, right? But the problem is we don't give that priming. We don't like warm up the kettle before we really go forward. So that's what I would recommend. What do you guys think about that, Jay? DK?
Yeah, no, I love that idea. I will say, and again, I'm probably the to kind of echo what DK was saying about being curious. I'm probably the exaggeration of constantly experimenting with tools like that. I just what's the tool? I see the ad all the time on TikTok. It's like it's not
Captions.
captions. I am adding captions a lot. I will do a lot of videos where my shorts, I will upload a video and I will use just Instagram, create a caption, download it, and then upload it to YouTube
Right.
because
Yeah.
and I think we're all nodding. There's tools like this, you can do this. But there was another tool that I got ads for. It's like Oculus, it's like Oculus Clip
Yeah.
or
I can
Opus
see
something.
that.
Clip.
Yeah,
Opus
yeah.
Clip.
Opus
It's not
Clip.
Opus.
There it is.
Yeah, it's Opus.
Yeah, Opus. Yeah.
So
That's
like
it.
I kept seeing this ad on TikTok.
Yeah,
Like you can create
it's a
the
good
best
one.
shorts and TikToks. And I like literally, I set up the account and I'm just like, okay, let me see what's it about. And so tools like this using AI because it's this I do at times have found sometimes the clipping of some of these AI tools can be they're like 65% of what it needs to be. Sometimes
Yeah.
it still needs a little bit of human to get it where it needs to be. But the point is that it can do heavy lifting,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
and so I'm totally with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I would piggyback on that. I love Opus. I think I got like 2,000 hours worth of use that I need to add and use in Opus. I use Opus a lot. I would say being curious is also meaning changing the way Opus looks per the account you work on, which
Mm.
means everybody's text shouldn't be lime green when I see it. Everybody should have something different that fits their brand structure and strategy to ensure that it is brand cohesive and consistent. That is important when it comes to those reels. Making sure that you attempt, everybody doesn't have it, but you attempt to have good, clean audio and a good, clear video feed.
That's
Because those
important.
reels will not mean anything if we can't see or we can't hear. So we need to be able to do that as it relates to Opus. And I do love it's not an ad for Opus. Opus, if you want to pay us, we'll take it. God bless you. But with Opus, you can load your YouTube clip directly inside of Opus, and it will start extracting the actual reels for you. So there's opportunity for those who don't have the resource to use an outside vendor. They can take the time to do it themselves and have that. So Descript does that, Opus does that, and a myriad of other tools do that same thing that Jay just mentioned.
Just one more quick reminder about Q&A. If you have any questions related to YouTube and you would like to ask our guests, leave them in the Q&A section. All right. So I'm going to jump into two of my strategies that I wanted to share with people. But before that, I want to kind of take a detour, which I didn't plan, but I'm going to ask you guys because this is a topic that I've been thinking about along with some of my friends. So one of my friends it has a company called Syllabi. So again, I'm not affiliated or whatever, but I'm just saying, it's a very interesting tool to create faceless YouTube videos. I know that our friend Nils has been playing around with it. I've been playing around with it. It's very, very interesting. I just created an experimental thing for that, and it's really amazing how it works. So what do you guys think of faceless videos? What I mean by faceless videos is probably for the benefit of the audience. It's creating shots on a theme. See, for example, let's say you are a ministry about family. Maybe you're like a family focused ministry. You could create like shots using AI that talks about the concept. So you would actually give it content, but AI would create those shots without any shooting or any content that you create. It will create shots by itself. So you would create like maybe 50 shots that talks about biblical basis of a family or marriage or whatever, but it's faceless video. So it'll be like just b-rolls coming up AI, and then with text just 1 minute long. So it will talk about how to be a good man, 5 ways to be a good man, 5 ways to be a good father, things like that. So that's called faceless videos. So what do you guys think? I want to spend like a couple of minutes on this and then move on.
Yeah, I think there's definitely I mean, the reality is that it's a proven strategy that many channels and people leverage. And I think it's actually overlooked. I think a lot of ministries and churches think you need to have an authority personality person to drive the church.
Yeah.
That's kind of our model,
Yeah.
which is not a bad model. And again, depending on where your church or ministry is, you might be different. Here in the US, for example, we kind of have this CEO model of the church, where you have a person up top and they're the face. Now the struggle is that they have to do the content for it to actually be compelling to that audience. And so I think the faceless thing is compelling. I think the only thing a faceless strategy has to deal with is making sure the B-roll and a lot of that footage isn't cheesy or corny.
Yes.
I think I've I've worked with ministries before that will run an ad using faceless strategy. And I do think it's easier to get emotion out of a face strategy and you can get directly to it. Like if I'm running an ad hypothetically on YouTube and it's a short ad and I'm trying to get attention, I can very quickly be like, "Hey, are you going through something? Like I want to talk to you. Maybe you're up late at night and you're struggling with something. As a pastor, message me right now." I can do that like within a second. Where on a faceless strategy, I'm gonna have to have somebody like somebody in
Yeah.
darkness with a little bit of light with text. Are you feeling lonely? And you can get the same emotion, but you may not be able to get there as quick as inflection and seeing my face and then there's this hope that you can connect with that person that you see where who are you connecting with on the faceless strategy. Doesn't mean you can't do it. And then also that video footage you use, if it's bad quality or if it's too corporate, like it's kind of like they call this the uncanny valley where you can kind of notice if something's fake.
Yeah.
And the same way as you can notice something is cheesy. Like I can, oh, that looks like it's from like bad 90s marketing footage or something, And so I
Yeah.
think I really believe in it. I think you got to do it super well,
Well,
but I
yeah.
think it's actually a really valid strategy. It might just take it might take 10% more work to do it well.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
TK?
Man, this guy, he's good. I would echo that same thing as a person that has done a faceless account temporarily to just try to see how it works. Certain things in terms of marketing that talks about the parent-child structure. When the one has the main account, but the child account also is operating and pointing people to the other account. And so it gives us an opportunity to have our main account and this other account, and they're both driving traffic to one place as it relates to YouTube. So all of that is a part of that thing. Now, does faceless take a little bit more work? Absolutely. You got to go find the videos, find the nice subtext, find the voiceover, find all those things to make a good faceless. Or if I am a social media person, I'm taking the pastor's sermon and extracting that and making that a part of the face list, and then adding stuff that kind of speaks to what he or she is saying. So that gives me an opportunity to have that parent child. And what you'll see is that the account goes even higher because these two things are both hitting the algorithm at the same time.
Mm. Wow, that's interesting. I love that. I love the parent-child strategy as well, because many ministries could actually use that to kind of, drive traffic to the ministry. Because as ministries, we have lots of prayer groups, we have small groups, so maybe not the main channel, but maybe you can have little sub-channels that are faceless channels that kind of augment. I don't know. Maybe that's an interesting strategy. Thanks, DK.
Well,
That's
churches already do that, bro.
yeah,
They'll call it branded house. And
right,
then they'll have another account that's called, let's say, church.worship. That's a
right,
child account. It's
right.
not the parent account. And if they're all connected, then the algorithm is being fed properly through all of these channels of accounts. That's the reason for that.
That's awesome. So when you say connected, is it the email ID associated with it, or is it
Well,
just
I know,
one account that's starting different channels? What do you mean?
yeah, I would hope that we are not starting independent channels
Right.
outside of leadership
Main
um,
account.
approval. That wouldn't be wise.
No.
But if you did it that way, and let's say I'm a pastor and I have church.xyz, and I'm gonna create child.xyz, worship.xyz. These are all child accounts that should be equally connected if we can. Now, in some cases, you cannot because somebody's gonna jump out there and already start an account. But if you can on YouTube specifically, you can use that channel to drive engagement and things of that nature. Yes, sir.
Love that. Love that. Awesome. Great. So thanks for indulging with me on that topic. Because I think AI and faceless and these kind of issues are coming to YouTube. So when we
Mhm.
think about YouTube in 2025, we definitely think about AI. Coming to my 2 points. So the two tips that I had for you guys is first is YouTube ads. I know Jay kind of touched on it. We have to be intentional in promoting things. Now, I'm not saying YouTube ads. YouTube ads is, first of all, YouTube ads is not like Facebook ads. Let me start with that. It's a completely different machinery. It's a completely different tool. You have to use it with a totally different strategy compared to Facebook ads. Because many times ministries would come to us and say, okay, we've got Facebook ads. Can we do YouTube ads? It's not the same. So you need to have a good reason. You need to have a good strategy. You need to have a good, approach to using YouTube ads. But having said that, YouTube ads are extremely powerful. So those of you who think that Mark Zuckerberg invented the social media ads world, you're wrong. The first company to do ads was Google, right? Many times we forget that because of how big and powerful Meta ads are. We think Facebook is the one who came up with the ads idea, but Google is the father of this whole thing. They invented the whole advertising ecosystem. They were the pioneers of the space, so they know much more about how ads work. And because of that, okay, let me give you a quick 2-minute thing about YouTube ads. So with YouTube ads, let me just give you use cases. Okay, think about this. You can target, these are the kind of people you can target with YouTube ads. You can target people who searched for something specific on Google. Just think about that. Okay, let's say you're a media ministry wanting to reach someone who is, say, going through a certain problem in life. You can actually target that person by the search that they did on Google. Let's say you're going after somebody who is getting out of drug addiction, right? If somebody says how to get out of drug addiction on Google, you can make them watch your YouTube video. How amazing is that? What an incredible
Amazing.
opportunity is that, right? Think about that. And next, you can target somebody who has watched another YouTube video. So I would say if you're in a media ministry, let's say, coming back to my same example, you're going behind someone who's trying to get out of addiction, right? Go to YouTube, look up videos that are about this topic, the top video, which has got like, say, 100,000 views. And you can say, anyone who watched that video, I want them to watch my video as well. You can release an ad for that. And you can start with like $1, right? It's not very expensive, but if you are strategic strategic about YouTube. And YouTube being YouTube, you can target these people on television, you can target them on and Android. I mean, think about that, right? YouTube ads are also highly specific with respect to the device. Okay, so they have a lot of information on the device. So if you, I will put a link to in the chat about the from the official support channel of YouTube, where they say how and what kind of data they take out of devices. Okay, they literally state that in their support channel, and you would be surprised, right? They actually take data that says people who have a specific app on their mobile and use a certain amount of time, spend a certain amount of time on certain app, they will be able to target that, right?
Mhm.
So I don't know. Think about the possibilities for ministry. So we constantly try those things, and I am always amazed and surprised at how accurate those numbers are. Sometimes we just release an ad and we'll get just 1,000 hits or clicks on the ad or views, but those 1,000 would actually take action much more than the others because we targeted just the right people. They not only view, coming back to Jay's point, it's not just the view, but it's also the engagement and the action. Now, the thing with YouTube ads is you might want to think, is there an action I want them to take? For example, sign up to an event or go to my website or consumer resources. Now, if you go to a person who's trying to get out of addiction and you release just a 5-minute video about what the Bible says about addictions and how God can help you and so on. And right at the top of your description, you give a link saying, if you want additional help, click here. People are more likely to click because they are having an intent. The whole thing about YouTube is intent. The reason YouTube is because it's a search engine and people come and search for something. So they're intentional about finding the solution or learning about something. And because they're intentional, they are likely to take action more than any other social media platform. And to do that, you can strategically use YouTube ads. So that's my first thing. I just want to give you a primer. We'll give you lots of links about where to get started, how to do it, and so on. But I would allow you to start from there. Before I go to the next point, guys, any thoughts on that, DK?
No,
Yeah, I
sir.
mean, I personally have been experimenting a ton over the
Mm,
last year with YouTube ads and have grown a lot in my learning.
mm,
They about a little probably 10 months ago or something, they released a if you in a Google ad account, you can create videos that drive video views. And
Yep.
it's really interesting because you can set this up and you can actually you put in your video URL on YouTube, title it, and then you can kind of you can pick audiences. They actually just recently, if you pick an audience, which is kind of like the targeting parameters that are more familiar in a meta platform, but you can actually say expand to other people. And what's interesting is that they
mm.
will actually find people like your YouTube channel.
Yes.
Um, it's it's one of those things with ads where you can spend a lot of money without knowing what worked, and you
Right.
can also, but if you pay attention, you can learn a lot. And so I think a lot about this, and I've been very impressed by the spend rate on YouTube ads compared
Yeah.
to Google ads, how you're able
I
Yeah.
agree.
to actually have deep engagement. I've been super impressed by it. And it sounds like
Yeah.
Nachi, you have too. And it's funny, we have like two ad strategies at my church that I kind of have simultaneously. I have message strategies where I create ads that drive message conversations that are more faith driven. And then I have YouTube strategy that's just trying to gain an audience member essentially who comes every week that will later message us. So kind of top of the funnel and more like direct. And uh, I'm spending more this year, I would say, on YouTube ads than I did the previous year, and that just shows how good it is. I do have a YouTube video on my channel where I talk about how to create YouTube ads
Mm,
and experimenting on that. So that's something we can link in the show notes as well. But
sure.
I've been super impressed by it.
Yes.
Now, I haven't ran an ad on a short yet. I've only done it on longer form video, but I do think there's something to this that is very compelling. They're still very far away from Meta, but they are getting better at it for sure. I think I think their YouTube ad platform got 50% better last year,
I
and
agree.
I'm very excited for the next for this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's worth experimenting with that. I would say just put a small budget to it, just run a few ads, get a hold of it, watch Jay's videos. You can ask us questions if you want, and we'll kind of, get back to you with answers and point you at the right direction. Lots of
They
resources.
do,
Yeah,
they do have an easy way for you to do it in the YouTube interface. You can boost
right.
Yeah.
you can create an ad. I think that is a great temporary solution. I don't think
Start. Yeah.
using that, yeah, I think everybody here would agree. That boosting feature, which I don't think they call it boosting, they call it something else, but is great. I would
Right.
eventually, if you really want to experiment, create a Google ad account, link your YouTube channel, and do it that way. Again, it might take this, it's funny, this past year I got YouTube ad certified because I was so interested in this. And because I just wanted to learn more about it, and because I was using it a lot more. But I would experiment with some of it this year, just maybe put $10 on something and just see what happens.
Yeah, yeah. And YouTube is so like you ought to think differently compared to Meta. For example, when you release, put a just this one point, and I'll move on. When you give a URL link or for your your video that's to be promoted or boosted, they will ask you what are the other related videos to this.
Yep.
So, for example, if you have like sermon part 1, you could actually link part 2 and part 3 and not pay for it. But YouTube, when they show part 1 as an ad, they will also show part 2 and part 3. It's like a bonus, right? It's not how Meta works. But because YouTube has this whole, watch time and, playlist kind of environment, they drag that to the ad space as well. So you can basically make people stick to your channel much more longer that way. Anyway, so that's ads for you guys. So we will give all those resources. Talking about resources, that's my second point. My second tip for you for 2025 YouTube is to use YouTube's resources. YouTube is, in my opinion, actually the most educative social media platform ever. I mean, no
Mm.
other company invests so much to educate people than YouTube. YouTube by itself has so many channels. For example, a couple of channels I will link to the in the show notes. One is called YouTube Creator Channel, which gives you a ton of information about what happens at YouTube. Just 5-minute videos, 2-minute videos every week. And YouTube, there's a channel called YouTube Viewers that gives you product updates about YouTube, what's happening at YouTube, and so on. So, highly recommend you follow that. And all of this is linked to one website called Creators. It's just called Creators. So youtube.com/creators. So we'll link to it in the show notes. So if you go, you can basically access every single resource that YouTube has. So it has resources for beginners, resources for advanced people. If you want to track policies, if you want to know what is working, what is not working. I mean, I can't say the same thing of Meta. As you all know, it's very hard to find information about Meta or Snapchat or TikTok or anybody else like that. It's getting easier, but YouTube from their own in-house team has a ton of information that could really help you go to the next level. So highly recommend that you use every single creator resource that YouTube puts out officially. The good thing about following these official accounts is you kind of get a heads up the moment it changes. You are always on top. You are not doing a strategy that's outdated. Because I would often, for example, on LinkedIn, I would try 15 things, and then I would realize that that was outdated a month ago, and I didn't even know about it because they didn't even put a post about it, right? It's just the users trying and saying, hey, this is not working, So stuff like that. So official communication from YouTube is amazing. And of course, the angle with which they put out all these resources is they want people to make money, right? They want people to make more money. So more monetizing strategy for our creators, for them to become more profitable and so on. But from the ministry point of view, yeah, of course, if you're monetizing your channel, that's great. But even if you're not monetizing your channel, it helps you build a better channel, right? Simply makes you a better person on YouTube. So any thoughts on that, guys? DK?
Brother, you killing it. There's nothing I need to add to that.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I like DK's like the just the hype person at the end. He's like always you nothing to add, and then I'm over here like the schoolgirl got something to add. I no, I just Yeah, the YouTube resources are amazing. And just as simple, just to echo, you can literally just search how to create a YouTube ad, and it's crazy. Like I remember
Yes.
like a year and a half ago, I wanted to create a TikTok ad, and what did I do? Go on YouTube, how to create a TikTok ad. Boom. When I wanted to do something on YouTube. And so I would encourage you. Now, there is a lot, and so sometimes you're not sure what you're watching, and so you have to watch something, you're like, "Oh, this isn't good." But it's amazing. It's an amazing platform of stuff we get to learn about using just this free, you just search and there it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, we've come to the close of our time. I can't, yeah, it's just flown by. Thank you so much for all the golden nuggets and information and tips and tools that you shared. So appreciate it. So before we close, two things. One is what's like the one maybe an inspiration or a motivational point or something that you want to tell people who are maybe like, tried YouTube, didn't work, they're not sure, or people who are stuck, they've been doing this for years faithfully, because I know many ministries that have actually faithfully used YouTube for years, yet they are only at a few, thousand followers or whatever. So what is that one inspiring thing or motivational thing that you want to share with our audience? That's the first. And then I also want you to share about how they can follow you online. DK, we'll start.
I'll go this time, brother. Revisit unfinished business.
Mm,
Meaning, some of you who are listening, you tried the YouTube tricks, you tried the ads, it didn't feel to work for you. So you laid it down and you buried it at the feet of Jesus. I'm asking you to go get your shovel and let's resurrect this very thing that you buried at his feet because you have the tips and the tools to be successful in this video to just get started. So start again.
mm,
It may feel intimidating, but keep going until you get to your destination. And your destination may take 6 months, a year. We don't know. But success is in faithfulness. So remain faithful in what God is telling you to do. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on my website, which is dkhammonds.com, or you can find me on all social media platforms. I am DK Hammonds.
thank you so much. Jay?
Yeah, I would just echo this, like this pressure to kind of not compare yourself to everybody else, but
Mm,
just focus on the people that you're trying to reach. One of the hardest things about YouTube is it can feel like high school, like a popularity contest. And the irony is that YouTube is pretty honest about who's popular and who's not. So
Yes.
I remember I had a friend who wanted to do YouTube, and he kept posting and he was getting 10 views of video. And unfortunately, what that can feel like is he's not performing well.
mm,
And the more he did it, and in this case, he actually kept doing it. He did it for like 6 months. And part of that is learning like you got to do something different because it's not working the way you're doing. But the other
Yes.
part is that I would remind anybody, any ministry, any church, is that think about how many people are in your church on Sunday or at a meet and greet. And sometimes we think, oh, we got to have thousands or tens of thousands. But maybe if your church or your ministry, typically you have 50 people and a video gets 40 views, why aren't you getting pumped for that? Like
Yeah.
you're getting because you're comparing yourself to everybody else. And
mm,
so like I will talk to ministries and churches all the time. You're like, why don't we have more people watching online? I go, how many people you watch? Well, we have like 300 people. How many people attend your church? Oh, like 300, 400 people. And I'm like, wait, you have the same like so I'm not saying you can't double it or triple it, but I'm saying what you think you should just be like Mark Rober or like Dude Perfect. Like that's not how it works. So understand, just try to focus on the people you're reaching and the audience you should have. And you might read a book like Tribes by Seth Godin, and it's not about the size of the tribe, but the commitment of the tribe that really matters. There are
mm,
people online that have a couple thousand subscribers, and they're paying full-time salaries because of the commitment of that tribe. Now, I'm not saying
Yes.
that's your strategy as a church or a ministry, but it's about the commitment. How many people, like I know I have a small YouTube audience, but I also know I have a very loyal group of people that engage with me. And so think about loyalty over views. But again, it's natural. Again, it's natural to look across and kind of see that. But just think about loyalty. That's why I was saying in the analytics, like think about retention. And then yeah, you can go to my website, jcrandon.com. I have a bunch of resources there, and I would love to connect there as well.
Yeah, yeah. We will link to all the details about DK and Jay in the chat. I also want to close with a thought of encouragement for you guys that if anybody is optimized to win on YouTube, it's the faith-based community. And I'm not saying that just to motivate you. I mean, I'm basing that out of data. All right. If you go to YouTube and say what kind of content works, here is a list of things you will find out. First is entertainment, right? Music, entertainment. Second is education. Third is inspiration and motivation, right? And then fourth is life needs. These are literally the top four type of content that wins on YouTube. And guess what? We have all of that. If you're from a church, you got entertainment in terms of music, right? We all have music, our church music, right? It's a form of entertainment. Second, education. We have education. We have inspiration. There's nothing more inspiring than the word of God, right? And we meet life needs. So literally, we meet all the four top requirements to be successful on YouTube. So I just want to encourage you that YouTube is probably most optimized for faith-based community than any other industry put together, right? So you have it, you just have to figure out how it works. You just have to listen maybe to stuff like this, interact, follow Jay, follow DK, follow experts, find out what we all do, find out how it all works, and just tweak a few things. And like Jay said, keep trying and be curious, and you're going to win, my friend. So just want to encourage you for 2025. All three of us are cheering for you, all of you. And we just pray and bless you that, it's going to be a year of YouTube for all of you as ministries, right? All right. Thank you, Jay. Thanks for being here again. Thanks for blessing us, man.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Thank you, DK, for coming on the show. So appreciate all your insights, brother.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you.
And before we close, I just want to quickly thank all of you for being here, taking your time to join us. Truly appreciate every one of you. And thank you for engaging and keeping this conversation going in a very exciting manner. I hope all this was useful. We have even more useful resources on our website, mi.global. You will have replay to all the webinars we've had in the past as well on the website. So do take a look, and we will see you in the next Decoding Digital Media webinar. Until then, you take care. God bless you. Bye-bye.